You live?
Hey there, it's Dave Layfield. Welcome to our weekly Section 8 update with Affordable Housing Online. It's Wednesday, January 28th, 2015, and I'm not in the office this week. I'm actually at a housing conference down in St. Pete Beach, Florida, and I snuck away. So I'm sitting out at the hotel. Anyway, apologize for anyone up north with the sun and the palm trees behind me. Anyway, let's talk about a few of the openings coming up right now. Opening soon, we've got Alameda, California. It's a large opening. It's just south of Oakland. It's across the bay from San Francisco. They're expecting a large turnout there. About 70,000 people are expected to apply, and they're only going to be choosing 750 applicants via random lottery. It opens online beginning tomorrow, January 29th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Applications are going to be accepted through 9:59 a.m. Pacific time on February 3rd. The application is available in multiple languages, and for more information, more details on the listing, on the opening, just go to our Alameda page on Affordable Housing Online. Roseville, California, another one in California. It's another large metro area. It's located just northwest of Sacramento. It opens online from Monday, February 2nd through February 9th. 500 applications will be chosen by random lottery. New Haven, Connecticut. We just stumbled on this one. It actually opened earlier this week. And not sure why we didn't catch it earlier, but it is open through February 6th, so we caught it in time. It's online or mail-in applications, and it's a random lottery over the next 12 months. It's kind of a strange, different way of doing it that you don't normally see with random lotteries, because I think they're going to be doing it in chunks over the next year or so. But for more details on how they're going to be doing that, go ahead and check our New Haven pages. We didn't see any preferences stated outside of income requirements, but we'll try and get as many details as possible and put that on our New Haven page. And I know we have lots of folks that ask about Connecticut, and there aren't that many openings in Connecticut usually, so this is a good one. Another state we usually don't see a lot of stuff opening up in is in Virginia, and right now we've got an opening coming up in Roanoke. It's opening for the first time since 2010. It opens on February 4th at midnight. It'll remain open through February 6th at 5 p.m. It's an online-only application. We have a link to the application on our Roanoke pages, and there's also a list of locations where they're offering computer services in the Roanoke area if you don't have access to the internet. Another one I want to touch on, we talked about last week. It's a big one. It's the Twin Cities area of Minnesota, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Again, covered it I think last week and maybe even the week before. The Metropolitan Council is a regional housing provider that manages the largest Section 8 program in the state of Minnesota. It's open from the 24th to the 27th of February, so you got about a month to prepare for that. And it hasn't been open since 2007. And there's more than 60,000 applications expected. It's online only. It's a random lottery. They're going to choose 2,000 applicants to be selected and added to the waiting list. And 95% of the waiting list slots will be awarded to local residents or folks who work in the Twin Cities area. And then 5% of the waiting list slots may go to those from outside of the area. It's important to note it doesn't cover Minneapolis proper or St. Paul, the city limits of those two cities, but pretty much all the other metro areas that surround them. And there's a link to a map that shows the areas that it's eligible for on our Metropolitan Council page if you want to go check that out. And you can get to that Metropolitan Council page through our open Section 8 waiting list page. Recently closed, so The Chattanooga, Tennessee Housing Authority opened its Section 8 waiting list on Monday, the 26th, and according to news reports, they got around 6,500 applications. They have 1,000 slots for the waiting list that will be chosen via random lottery, and that will be announced on February 2nd. They'll be posting, I believe, to their website on February 2nd the list of the 1,000 folks that are being added to the waiting list. Interesting thing on Chattanooga, and we're starting to see this across the country, and that is there was a news report, I think it was in the Times Free Press, that a very large percentage of folks in Chattanooga that get issued a voucher end up not being able to use the voucher because they can't find adequate housing or a landlord that will rent to them. And that has resulted in a fairly high turnover rate where they're processing through the waiting list much faster. So don't think that if you get chosen, your problem is solved. Remember that you've got to be able to find a house that qualifies and a landlord that will rent to you. So that's going to be one of your challenges you're going to need to meet. I think, and in fact, I'll talk a little bit about that in a second when it comes to questions. All right, so that is that's most of the big new openings, or the ones that just closed. We're tracking like 120 plus waiting lists that are either open now or opening soon. You can find details on all of those on our Open Section 8 waiting list page, and you can get to all the official Housing Authority applications through that page. All right, questions. So, first one, what happens if I can't find a home with my voucher? So, to the Chattanooga issue, this is becoming a real problem. It seems I'm seeing more and more stories across the country where landlords are refusing to rent to anyone who has a Section 8 voucher. Many cities and counties and some states have actually considered making it illegal under equal housing laws to discriminate against anyone based on their form of payment. Oregon did it. I believe it was Austin, Texas, just passed an ordinance which is now being contested legally by an apartment association. And so the problem is that once you're issued a voucher, you usually have around 120 days to find yourself a house or an apartment to rent. And if you don't within that 120 days, you lose the voucher. It goes back, and they go to the next person on the waiting list. So you wait, it's terrible. You wait 2 years, 3 years, 5 years through the waiting list. You get issued your voucher, and then you can't use it because you can't find anyone that will accept it. So one of the tips I'm going to give you is if you know that you're pretty high up on that list, you really need to be understanding what the rental market is in your area. You need to understand what neighborhoods you're going to be able to get into. You need to be checking Craigslist all the time to know what kind of rentals there are out there, so that when you do have that voucher in hand, then that clock starts to tick, that you're ready to go out and find that apartment. I'll say that in some markets where this is becoming a problem, you might actually get an extension from the Housing Authority, but you really need to, if you're going to get that type of extension, you really need to prove to them you've been trying hard and that you've applied to several landlords and try and document that. So keep a paper trail whenever you're doing your housing search. And then there's other parts of the country where you probably you won't have a problem finding a rental. So anyway, I hope that answered that question adequately. I have another question, and we get this a lot, and I really wish that we could help more with the problem of homelessness. And someone asked today on Google Plus, if I'm homeless and need a place to go, can Section 8 help me? And unfortunately, Section 8, the Housing Choice Voucher Program, is not an emergency housing program. It's not going to give you enough help immediately to solve your immediate crisis. It many times takes several years to find to get through the waiting list and get issued a voucher. So you're going to have to turn to other emergency housing resources, particularly homeless shelters. You might call your housing authority and see if they have a special emergency housing program, but it's not likely going to be Section 8. Some public housing facilities make a priority for homeless persons. For example, San Francisco, I think it was just last month, opened up their public housing waiting list pretty much exclusively for homeless persons, and they still weren't able to serve everyone. But you know, it's a large city and they have lots of homeless folks. But what we're going to do is we're going to post a link in the Google Plus comment thread and on our Facebook page to the best place to search for homeless shelters. It's actually a housing and urban development directory, and we're actually hoping later this year to actually add a homeless shelter directory to our website, just like we have a directory for other housing. And this one's just getting thrown in front of me right now, so let me see. We've got a question coming in from Carlton. Carlton asks, am I qualified for Section 8 if I'm on Social Security? And the answer is yes. In fact, and I don't have the stat in front of me, I'm going from memory here, but I think about 52% of Section 8 voucher recipients, folks who are currently receiving Section 8, are seniors and are on Social Security. And I can tell you that, you know, I don't know of many people who are on Social Security who aren't, if that's their only source of income, that aren't considered low income. So if you're on Social Security and you don't have any other paycheck or any other retirement funds or interest coming in from savings, you're very likely going to meet the income requirements. And in fact, some jurisdictions even offer a preference for elderly or disabled folks. Yes, the answer is, Carlton, the answer is yes. And then the last surprise question that Josh threw at me, I'm going to read it. Sherry asks, what if you get a voucher but you already are in a lease with an apartment or house? How does that work? Will I lose the voucher? That's actually a really good question, and it kind of goes back to the first question about finding a place to live. If you know you're going to be getting a voucher soon, then you might consider trying to find an apartment that you can afford, but you might have to struggle with, but you can afford it now, maybe with some help from family or whatever, that you know will accept the voucher once you get it. So talk to your landlord to make sure that they're going to be willing to accept the voucher. So Sherry, yes, if you're already in a rental and you get a voucher, you could use that voucher there. Now that landlord is going to have to go through a physical inspection of the property, and going to have to agree to the payment standards and everything else that all the housing authority rules. And if they've never done Section 8 before, then that might be a little bit scary for them. But most housing authorities have a pretty good landlord question and answer section on their website. And then, of course, housing authorities are always very happy to talk to landlords. There is a shortage of landlords out there that are willing to accept Section 8. So housing authorities are always very, very happy to hear from a landlord who's interested in participating in the program. So if you just get your current landlord to talk to the housing authority, then you can get it all set up so that once you get your voucher, you can switch over. So thanks for that question, Sherry. That was a really good question. So I think I'm going to wrap it up. I've been talking for about 15 minutes now. We'll come back next week, and I promise I'll be back in in cold, blustery Maryland and not sitting here with palm trees behind me. I hope that we helped keep checking our website and our Facebook page, our Google Plus page. We update it very frequently. Every time we find a new listing, we just found New Haven this morning. So almost every day we dig up new resources for you, and I hope we helped you with your housing search. All right. Well, I'll talk to you next week.